the NFL versus college football and who is winning that battle, I think is fascinating. The viewership numbers coming out of the Super Bowl. You guys understand that the Super Bowl this past Sunday is the most watched television show ever, period. End of discussion. Over 2 million, or excuse me, over 200 million people watched all or part of the Super Bowl on in some way, shape, or form. Look at those numbers.
It's the other way.
Look at those numbers. That's a unicorn.
Mm-hmm.
That's a unicorn. 123.4 million average viewers. The most streamed Super Bowl in history, led by a Paramount Plus audience that was so overwhelming it crashed their platform. Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
I don't know what you say about 202.5 million people watching one singular TV show, because we've never even gotten close to that in college football. If you look at the largest college football playoff championship game ever, it was 34.14 million people.
Mm-hmm. Not even in the same ballpark.
Not even in the conversation.
Yeah.
And note that was 2014. If you look down
over by me
there,
and stuff right there. Up, right.
That was 2014. And the number has only come down from there. I think you're a very interesting example of this, Jake, because you are not the passionate football fan that I am.
Mm-hmm.
Are you more of a college or an NFL football fan?
I would say, generally speaking, I'm more of an NFL fan. I'm here for big time college football games. You know, I love the like Ohio State, Michigan, Bama, Georgia, hell, even Georgia Auburn this past year was a really good game that I really enjoyed watching. So I'm here for the bigger game, the Oregon Washington game that we got multiple times. Like, I like that type of college football, but I'm not here for low end Big Ten game or low end Big 12 ACC game. Like, I'm not here for meaningless, irrelevant football. Like, I'm not the guy you're going to see watching football just because you're on a football field with a helmet on. That's not me. I would much rather have a ball game on. I'd much rather be watching hoop or even hockey. I love the NHL. So for me, when I look at these NFL stats, I look at this and I say, I think it's a couple factors. Number one, I think the NFL is the thing that brings everybody together. Like, even if you're not a Chiefs or 49ers fan, you're excited about the Super Bowl because the culture in our country is like, hey, let's all get together. Let's have a party, whether that's a low-key get-together, whether that's a Waste Management Phoenix Open Rager,
mate.
You know what I mean? Like, so our culture, number one, is to get everybody together, have a party, have fun with it, and do that type of thing. So I think that's the first portion of it. But I think to that end, that's why this number is so impressive. Think about it. How many people came over to one house and watched the game on one TV, and you still got 200 million views? So that tells me that we're probably 250, 260, 270 of actual human beings who watch this game. When you think about, hey, like, there were 10 people at my house watching one TV.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, when I think about that, that's a huge factor. The other piece of this, though, is the Paramount Plus portion. I think streaming has enabled you to get to these kind of numbers because I don't have to have a TV to watch this game. And if you're a college student, if you're overseas, if you're like whatever situation you're in, if you stream, you can watch this game. And that is why you're able to get to 200 million overall big picture high level views.
Is college football a more compelling product than the NFL? I don't think you can make that argument in any way, shape, or form. I think the athletes, the speed, the precision, the execution is far better in the NFL. I think you are playing for life and death stakes in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I think college football, a lot of fans, and I hear it all the time, we talk about it on the show all the time, that this NIL transfer portal nonsense that is just now getting adjudicated in college sports has really taken a lot of the flair and the fire away from college football fans. And while I am somebody that is passionate about Notre Dame football and college football in general, I don't know that there's anything better than a big SEC matchup. I don't think there's anything better than your team playing its rival than a BYU and Utah, and Ohio State and TTUN. Like, I don't know that there's anything better than the I don't have any other names for Michigan, but the point is, I don't know that there's anything better than a big college football game. Oh, wait, yeah, there is. It was the Chiefs and Niners the other night going to overtime with the 49ers not knowing the rules, which is remarkable to me. You have these compelling games where legacies are being written and erased, and you just don't get that in college football. You get guys like Nick Saban, who is inarguably now the greatest college football coach ever, simply walking away from the game because he's tired of the bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that makes it very difficult for fan bases to be in love. And Kalen DeBoer is a hell of a football coach. He's not Nick Saban, nor will he ever be. And I think if you're an Alabama fan, you're probably at ground zero of this conversation. I think It's very difficult if you're a Washington fan to be excited about Jedd Fisch. I think it's very difficult if you're a Michigan fan to see what's looming in front of you and be excited. I don't think there's any doubt that if you are in the state of Michigan, and we're talking about the Wolverines versus the Lions, you are far more excited about Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions than you are about the future of Michigan football, and they just won a national championship. And again, I point back to this issue that we have in college football that we refuse to talk about or legislate, if you will, and that is NIL and the transfer portal. It is absolutely killing a lot of programs, and there are few exceptions of college football programs, let's say Colorado, in prime time, who are making the most of it, right? Like that, I think, is the issue. There are so many programs that are shrinking under NIL and the transfer portal. And listen, I see our comment section yesterday when we were talking about college football, where old school coaches can't keep up with the new school. Hey, maybe that is the case. But the bottom line is you're never going to be able to replicate what guys like Nick Saban did. It's wild to me that we have NFL coordinators, college football head coaches leaving their posts to go be coordinators in the NFL because they just want to coach football. That's wild to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I frankly, folks, I don't know how you fix that. And I think it is a systemic existential crisis for college football. You have got to get your hands around NIL and the transfer portal, because I think it is absolutely killing the sport.
Yeah, I think the politics of it all is why the NFL dominates. I think, college football is loaded with politics and heat and vitriol and, hey, Twitter tough guy on the Michigan thing or, the Ohio State thing or, there's always some situation in college football. Whereas in the NFL, we can have fun with the Taylor Swift thing. We can poke the bear and, not throw hands at each other for whatever reason. And I think it really just comes down to the fact that the NFL is for whatever reason, the NFL just has this thing about it where it's sort of just it's above it. It's above all this sort of cesspool of drama in college football. The NFL, not even just in sheer talent and rank, but just in feeling as an observer. Like, you turn on the NFL and you're like, cool, man, like, who we got today? What are the matchups? Like, what are the stats? Like, I want to see some tape breakdown. Like, it's all about football. And then it's like, oh, there's Taylor Swift in the box. All right, right back to football. Right? Like, there's no, hey, Jim's going to leave after this national championship game, or, hey, we're going to a 12-team college football playoff, and that's going to completely change the conversation.
But look at all the momentum that we had last August. Look at the pure elation and excitement that college football fans from the Pac-12 to the Big 12 to the Big 10, look at all of the realignment power that was there. It united us as college football fans, right? Like, remember the shows we did where we were just full of pure joy and elation for the Power Five and the moment that we all recognized my greatness and my authority in college football, and that I was something more than a sex symbol to your wife,
Just
when
the stalwartness,
the Pac-12 melted down and the realignment that came out of that.
Right.
Think about how that unified us as college football fans. And now today, we're going to have likely an injunction put in place that will stop the NCAA from enforcing rules against NIL recruiting. Do you guys realize
check yourself?
That suit is going in front of a judge today? And I think there's an excellent chance that injunction is granted. From the highs of realignment, I think this NIL thing is a huge, huge deal.
Yeah, and I think what's scary about it is we don't know how far it's going to go. We don't know. Like, I think that's one of the biggest challenges around the portal NIL conversation is it's very undefined. It's not like we're like, all right, so like in the NFL, hey, we're gonna move kickoffs up to the 25. What do you guys think about that? It's a player safety issue. What do you think? It's a very straightforward conversation. Yeah, let's move it up. We'll kick it through the end zone every time. And if you want them to return it, okay, cool. This is like, hey, we feel like this is an antitrust issue. We feel like this is a huge Supreme Court level conversation. And by the way, if we win this thing, cool, you can't enforce NIL regulation, but also what is the ramification of that on the sport and on the culture and on the conversations and the relationships? And that's what I think is dangerous for college football. We don't know what a college football system looks like where you can just say, okay, I've got my checkbook. I'm going to write a check for $1 million. Hey, player A, come and play for me. Like, if it's that simple, it truly is like, all right, just free agency, we're just going to try and sign guys. And that, I think, is kind of insane. I don't know. I don't know how you sort of keep all that organized and keep it all on the up and up. I don't know how you do that.
Well, I also think that part of what you're talking about there is the one constant in the last 5 years in college football has been change. There's no change in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, there's a tweak in the kickoffs. Nobody cares. The game is the game. The Super Bowl is the Super Bowl. It doesn't go from the BCS to the college football playoff. We don't have lawsuits over people getting left out because they weren't good enough. It's football. It's $1 billion. And I think this year, I think this year it's projected to be a $12 billion sport, the National Football League.
Yeah.
$12 billion we're talking about. It's wild. And I think that ever consistent change and the instability in college football is killing the sport. I think it is stagnating growth. I think it is a turnoff to multiple generations. I can tell you I'm 50 years old and the NIL transfer portal thing is not a turnoff to me, but everybody that I know that is my age or older hates it.
Mm-hmm.
I am tired of talking to somebody yesterday about, the transfer portal and this story at Oklahoma and that Dylan Gabriel transferred. I'm still hearing from Oklahoma fans who are bitter and pissed off that he got in the transfer portal.
Well, I think Dylan Gabriel is a great example of one of those guys who'd have been a legacy player at Oklahoma pre-transfer portal era. He'd have been a 3-year guy who would have left with a super positive reputation at Oklahoma and everything would have been great. But we're in a different era now. And frankly, for Dylan Gabriel, you look at him, a little bit smaller of a quarterback, look at his skill set, look at the way he plays the game. He understands that he's got to play in bigger games than Oklahoma can probably get him to right now. And that's the challenge for players, that they are tasked with, hey, what is the best situation here? It's kind of like when we look at different jobs. Hey, so I'm making $1 million right now, but this job over here will pay me $1.1 million, but there's all these different circumstances and it winds up not actually being that good. And so I think it just makes a situation where we just have to endure constant change. And I think your point about the Super Bowl is spot on. The only change we get in the Super Bowl is where we're playing it. That's it. And we celebrate that change. We want to see the different stadiums. Like, that's the insane part about it. The change in the NFL is like positive, accepted, normalized change. And in college football, it's not. It's seismic.
I think if you begin paying college football players, it gets worse. And again, I don't mean to be redundant. You go back to this ruling today. Where is it? In Tennessee, I guess. If that injunction is granted, do you understand what that means? It means that a school can call your favorite quarterback and say, come here, we'll give you $5 million to come to this university. That's what this means. That a university is now going to carve out a budget inside of football and basketball to pay players to transfer to their school. And you think we have a separation of classes now? And you think that the God tier in college football is changing the way the game is played now? What happens when Michigan doesn't spend money on cheating, sign stealing? Instead, they're calling your quarterback because free Harbaugh is going to the NFL draft.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when universities like Florida State, Georgia, Alabama can just call your best linebacker and say, you know, we've got $10 million sitting here for you. Why don't you come play for us?
It's really unfair.
All right, coach, see you in a couple of weeks. That's what this is.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to, I think it is, and I understand that we need compensation. I get it. If you take the reins off and you hand the behemoths of college football a blank check, which they're going to turn around and write to a player, you're in real trouble now.
Yeah, and I think one of the only ways that you can bring any type of settling, if you will, to the dust on this situation is by allowing schools to get into contract situations with players. I don't know how else you change it, because if you look at other major sports leagues around the world, look at what they do in like the Premier League as an example. Oh, hey, you want to make a deal? Well, okay, you can have this player for this much, but you're also going to pay us a fee on top of that, right? Oh, hey, you want to be first overall in this year's NFL draft? Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, you're going to have to give us a pick and a player, and then we'll make that deal. So it's like, hey, Oregon, you want Dylan Gabriel from us, and he would like to go? Okay, cool. You can have him, but we're going to need X, Y, and Z. And you got to have rules around what X, Y, and Z can look like.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think we are in a very dangerous time for college football and basketball.
But like, can you
honest to God.
In college sports, that type of setup in college sports, that's crazy. Insane.
It is going to be transformative, because I don't see any way that we get away from universities directly paying players. I don't see any way we get away from it. And I think it just is what it is.
NIL
right?
opened the door, man. Now you're on the elevator going up to the 100th floor, dude.
Watch what you wish for, because you just might get it.
Yeah.
Watch what you wish for, because you just might get it. All right. Let's get your comments in here. Presented by our good friends at Big O Tires in American Fork. Big O Tires in American Fork, your total car care experts. Find them on Instagram. Find them on Twitter. Find them on Facebook. Tell them you heard about them on the Monty Show. Friday, our Amazon gift card giveaway may well involve that.
Yes.
We always are trying to work in the Bucked Ups of the world, or Big O Tires in American Fork. That might be the one.
And by the way, just want to point this out, because I know we all like to say, oh, well, Monty, I live in Texas, or I live in New York, or, you're doing a Utah only thing. This isn't a Utah only thing. He can ship you tires, dude. You can support this small local business from abroad. So don't make any excuses. No excuses here.
All I'm saying is, we support local business on this show. We always have. Those have always been our partners, whether it's the Advocates, again, Bucked Up, Papa Murphy's, you name it. All of our program sponsors, we really focus on small local businesses. Ryan and the guys at Big O Tires in American Fork, that's a locally owned business. They do tires. I've told you all about my Michelin Cross Climate 2s. Best tire in the business. I love it. It has been an amazing tire for me. Every snow condition, We were less than a week ago driving through a hellacious blizzard. The Cross Climate 2 performed. And I love everything about it. But no matter what class or size of tire you need, Big O Tires and American Fork has it. No matter what you want in your car care, whether that's a check engine light or what you need is an oil change, an alignment, suspension. Maybe you want to put a lift kit on your truck or your Jeep. Big O Tires and American Fork. They've got the hookup. They'll take care of everything from parts and labor to aftercare, you name it. Big O Tires and American Fork. Find them online. Make sure you leave them a note on Instagram that says, I heard about you guys on the Monty Show. Love you. Hook it up. All right, let's see who's first in today. Sean Rollins gifted a Monty Show membership.
Okay. Let's go, baby.
Thank you, Sean Rollins. Appreciate that. Good to see you this morning. Man, look at all the comments. Kaufman, first one in today. He says the main reason the NFL is better is it's about winning. College is about popular votes, not winning meaningful games. Well, there is some of that. There is no doubt about that. Force Ghost Fabio says, good morning, Monty. Well, hello, Fabio. How are you? Mike Smith, good morning. I'm hungry. This is what I was telling you. Someone pick me up a breakfast sandwich, please.
Fat.
Man, that sounds good.
Yeah.
That
Little
just
fried egg, little sausage, little croissant.
I'll tell you what. Last night, I was exhausted.
Mm.
We get up at 4:00 to do this show, so it's early. And I made some quick tacos last night. Fresh shredded lettuce, fresh chopped tomato, fresh green onion, turkey meat. It was amazing. Again, I did it. I took 2 tortillas, melted cheese between them.
Boom.
Built a taco on top of it. Amazing.
Yummy.
And yeah, then went to bed, had a massive headache at midnight last night. That was the worst.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you guys wake up in the middle of the night? Sometimes you have a headache and it's terrible. I had that last night. And the funny thing about last night, I was trying to get back to sleep. I was pretty much awake or mildly awake from midnight to 2:00, trying to remember the golf commentator Kevin Kistner's name. Why? I don't know why.
What is his name?
I don't know why.
It's not Kevin Costner. It's Kevin Kistner.
Yeah, Kiss. UW fan Jim, good morning. He says, go Dogs. There you go. Mike Smith, build up for the draft makes the NFL offseason a tad more easier to get through. It does. I would agree with that. Sean Rollins says, hit the like button. Yes. Mike Smith says, Life Jacket Tuesday. Are you guys going voting?
Why are you hating, dude? Why are you hating?
What do you mean?
I think that's a reference to us wearing vests on the show because it's freezing outside.
Mine's not a puffer vest. I'm just fat, so it looks like a puffer vest. You know, you're the one wearing a full-on life jacket over there. Jay Chapman agreed. Kaufman, it's all it's about to be better than it ever has been. Conference play in college football is great. You awake over there,
dude? Keep reading the comments.
The problem is unrelated to conference play.
Yeah.
The issue is how many people watch and how much money is being made. And that number is shrinking. That's the trend is not like this for college football. It's much more of a roller coaster, and it is wholly dependent on the size of the teams playing in the final.
Yes.
Whereas the Super Bowl just draws.
And I think you see a touch of that, right? Like, obviously, there have been Super Bowls that are, way less attractive than let's say Chiefs Niners, right? Chiefs Niners is iconic. It is. You don't think that's an iconic Super Bowl?
I mean, it is, but the 49er fan base isn't what it used to. It had a much larger audience than Chiefs and Eagles.
Yeah.
You're 10% larger than last year.
Yeah, not even close.
Chiefs and Eagles, listen, 49ers and Chiefs is iconic. You're exactly right. How much of that was Taylor Swift?
I think there's a good part of it. I mean, I don't know if it's a third per se, but I do think,
Is it a 10% bump in viewership?
I would be comfortable saying it's at least 5%. Yeah, I think you've got, you tell me there's not a single Swiftie who wasn't into football and now is partially because of Taylor Swift. Come on.
Okay.
Come on.
Calford Axe. NFL has a world interest, especially the countries that they have played in. But Again, isn't college football a global sport? Isn't that what they're selling us? That
I guess.
Is it not? UW fan Jim, Super Bowl is an event and it's worldwide. Is the college football playoff not an event and worldwide? I don't know. Maybe it's not. Boyd Lake, the NFL doesn't play meaningless games in the regular season. All the playoff winners have a path to the Super Bowl. Truth. I mean, and that's why the wild card, expanding the wild card, which is what the NBA just did.
Yeah.
But expanding the wild card, it was huge because it keeps more markets in it. I agree with that 100%. OG Gary, college football is far more superior of a product. I don't care what the numbers say. College football means more. And that's just me. I am way more of a college football guy. The product in the NFL, it's better football.
Yeah.
It is more precise. It is executed at a higher level. It is the mental part of the game, the maturity of the body. It is a very, very different product than you get in college. I think in college you have a lot of mental mistakes that don't take place at the next level. I think when you're talking about maximum contracts and you're talking about legacies for players are not written in college football. Legacies are rarely written unless you're a Tim Tebow, for instance, or whoever.
Right.
Your legacies usually are written in the NFL. And Patrick Mahomes, all the fake quotes about how he was made at Texas Tech, that's cool. Patrick Mahomes was made in Kansas City at Burrowhead Stadium.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right. I mean, there just is. I don't know of a Tom Brady. Tom Brady doesn't have a Michigan legacy, but he's the greatest quarterback that's ever played the game. Right? Your legacies are written in the NFL, not in college football.
And maybe that's part of the conversation. Like the NFL, when you're really good in the NFL, nobody's like, man, you were like Tom Brady as an example. No, when you hear Tom Brady, you're not thinking, man, he was the best Patriot ever, even though he probably was. You're thinking that's the best quarterback all the time, man. Like Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers, right? Like Aaron Rodgers might be one of the best examples. Pre-Jets, that guy was a Packer legend.
Yeah, well, and that's because he was immunized.
Just can't help yourself, can you?
What?
Just can't help yourself, you know.
Yeah, I've been immunized.
I don't understand why that.
Where is Aaron right now?
Dude.
He was immunized.
All right, we're going to move on here.
Okay. Any Eric, in Raleigh, the NFL is played by people who only do that. College football players still technically have to go to classes. You're not wrong about that. I mean, I think the game at the NFL level is just far more refined.
Mm-hmm.
And your body, the bodies of the NFL, the speed of the NFL. You look at just the incredible ability, the precision. I mean, you're not getting that in college football. College football is not a bad product.
No.
It's just not the same product.
I do think college football relies on that type of chaos in a game that stems from mistakes made or just,
interception. On fourth down and 9 in college football, you're probably getting an interception.
Yeah.
And that interception is probably happening on a 6-yard out route.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's the difference to me. I think that's right. Harry Austin, how much of an impact has all the realignment had impacted college football as well? I think it was actually very good. I think the buzz and the excitement around realignment was nothing short of magical last fall. But I think this NIL stuff, I think this has been a very tumultuous 6 months. I think the Jim Harbaugh cheating stuff was terrible for college football. I think the damage that the Michigan cheating scandal has done to college football, I think people don't even recognize that your national championship team is admittedly guilty of cheating. I think that's incredibly damaging. I think NIL rather is far more damaging than that. And the transfer portal nonsense, I think, really hurts brands and the fans' ability to connect when you have major talent, especially at the quarterback position, changing universities.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like Will Howard going from K-State to Ohio State is not good for college football. It only makes Ohio State better.
Mm-hmm.
It makes Lloyd Carr a better coach, right? Like it just is. I think it's inarguable. The transfer portal really, it's the damage that you don't recognize.
It used to be that you could say college football made men, and now we can't say that.
Well, that might be strong. I think what you can't say anymore is that every team has a chance every year because they don't. K-State has very little chance to win a championship. That's the reality of it. If Will Howard's going to leave Manhattan for Columbus, K-State doesn't have a chance, right? Like, and I think there are, if you look across the SEC, if you look across every major conference, like Missouri this past year, great upstart program, does not have a chance to win a national championship. Doesn't. I mean, is their path easier than K-State? Certainly it is. Because you're in the SEC, you're going to get a box check, no doubt about it. But it does not mean that Vanderbilt has a chance to win. Stanford or Cal, Washington State has zero ability to compete for a national championship.
Correct.
None.
Yeah.
And when this ruling comes down today, if it comes down today, giving schools the ability to pay kids NIL money to come and play at their university, UCLA's done. Washington State is done. It's over. It's over. Because you're not going to compete. You're not going to compete at that level.
That's tough, man. That's tough.
You may want to, but Dakota Tubbs, we love NIL here in Missouri. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Nobody's picking Missouri over Ole Miss, Alabama, Georgia.
Facts.
Nobody's picking Missouri over Ohio State. The big boys, nobody's picking Missouri over the big boys. You're not going to get that. I put Missouri into a group where you're good, you're just not good enough. You're big, you're just not big enough.
Right.
Right. And college basketball is different. I think you look at some of the mid-major majors. I mean, there's a clear delineation point. Like, I mean, pick your conference. Okay, I agree. Let's talk about the SEC. Right? If we look at the SEC in football, adding Oklahoma and Texas, who's going to Missouri over Texas?
Nobody.
Who's going to, in what was Missouri? 11-2 this year? Who's going to Missouri over Florida? A kid in Florida is not going to Missouri if he can get paid at Florida.
Yeah.
He's not going to Missouri if he can get paid at Miami. He's not going to Missouri if he can get paid at Florida State.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. It's not just about the nameplate and the nameplate's reputation. It's about the situation too. And
now don't forget that SMU has all that money.
Right.
Don't you know who I am?
Real quick, there was a dude in the comment section yesterday who was like, "You guys are totally wrong. I told you, you were totally wrong about SMU. We delivered the ACC a pipeline to Texas." Sure you did. I mean, just live with your head in the sand.
You keep telling people that, man.
Live with your head in the sand. And if you look at the Big Ten, who's going to Indiana over Oregon or Washington?
To play basketball, right?
Sure. Nobody. Because Uncle Phil's got bread, right? Like there's a clear, I'm very curious about Wisconsin and Nebraska.
Might want to start moving. Got to start moving forward, man.
Do you put Missouri in the same cut as Wisconsin and Nebraska?
Yeah, I think right now here today, Missouri's better than those.
If Luke Fickell truly does turn this thing around in Madison, you're screwed.
Agreed.
If you can figure out how to win at Nebraska and Lincoln, you're screwed. Because you're looking at Missouri has always been able to compete recruiting wise. They've always been able to have a compelling reason. NIL, and this is not just Missouri, this is everybody. NIL takes the compelling out of your reasoning. Because now you got to contend with, forget Nebraska, forget Wisconsin. Now you got to contend with Dion.
Right.
Now you got to contend with all these other dudes who can pay you hordes of money. It's terrible for the game.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's terrible for the game. It just is. And I don't mean to drone on that point. It's terrible for the game.
Terrible.
And this is a moment in time. And if this ruling happens today, I hope that we all recognize this. The gravity of this moment. If they put that injunction in place that prevents the NCAA from enforcing rules which do not currently allow universities to hand a kid a check or wire money into his bank account, you are specifically forbidden from saying to Jimmy the quarterback, hey, you come to Missouri, we'll wire $10 million to your account today. Not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Right up until this injunction's put in place. Then you can do that. And remember, you're not going to be able to retroactively punish people who take advantage of that.
So
you're just not.
How long is the window? That's the question.